Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Hi, welcome to Fairy Tale Access. Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to author Taryn Crawford. With both of these books, you're going to love this series, and we're going to go to Las Vegas, and we're literally going to get inside of this police line. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I'm so excited that I got both books too. Thank you. Because Underbelly, I would have been horrified if it was like, oh, you have to wait 3 months for the next one or 4. So
Yeah.
How long did it take you to do both of these?
So I wrote Underbelly in about 10 months and wrote and published it in about 10 months. And Atone took me a little bit longer. It was just slightly closer to a year to get that one out.
Wow. Tell me about your background. This is like a psychological thriller, crime, craziness, the whole underbelly of Las Vegas.
Well, I worked in the criminal justice system for over 20 years, and I'm retired from that. I worked specifically in community supervision. And so I have seen many things over the course of my career. And, I like to tell people dark things live in my head as a result, I think, of that career. But I also love Las Vegas. It's, to me, one of the most wonderful cities. It's the greatest place for people watching. Everyone is there, and there are scary parts and fun parts. And I think that makes for just great material in a book.
Definitely. Did you ever live in Las Vegas? Because you really get deep into the dirty secrets and...
No, I did not, but I have a group of friends, and we were going probably 3 or 4 times a year. We loved it so much. So I've spent quite a bit of time there.
Oh, it really shows. I love the whole premise behind the title, Underbelly, because it's literally where it all takes place. And you have this serial killer that they're trying to analyze, who gets a fixation on Taryn Winter, the main detective. But it takes you on this craziness, following the bodies. And then you were sadistic, and you left us with a huge cliffhanger at the end of 1. We're like, oh, so glad I have book 2. Because you did atone for yourself in book 2.
So when I wrote Underbelly, I knew the story. I had it in my head, and I knew that I would be leaving it that way. And about halfway through, I thought, people aren't going to like this. Most people like things to be kind of wrapped up and finished. And so I changed gears, and I started trying to write it toward that end and toward the Atone ending. And I just couldn't. I stopped, and I couldn't finish it. So I knew I had to leave it as my vision had been.
No, it was really good. I mean, you love a good thriller that leads you through all of the evidence the way that you did. That's so good, because we're like, oh, it's this guy. I really think it's him. And we're like, oh, okay. But it leads you through that quest. And then at the end, like, you're stopped. Like, it happens in real life. So we can deal with it, but we're just like, she better be still writing. And then when we find Atone and we get to the end, oh, it's such a brilliant twist. Like, never expected it.
Oh, thank you so much. I had fun writing that. I enjoyed writing both of them, but what I most enjoyed about Atone is kind of the cat's out of the bag in many ways. And so there was a lot of character development in that book, and learning about all of them, including learning a lot about the serial killer.
Yeah. Did you look at case files to get details? The way that you spun it, the mentality of the characters, all of them, they weren't perfect, but how all of their character traits played into how things played out. So well done. It's one of the
Oh,
best crime books I've read in a while.
oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people who work in law enforcement, police officers, detectives. I've read many, many thousands of police reports during my career, and just court reports and different things like that. So, and I also read a lot of books. So I have general knowledge of how investigations work, that kind of thing. And of course, I vetted the book with people who do this kind of thing for a living. But the serial killer piece is just, that's all just from me. That was just my creation.
Wow. What about the characters? Who do you draw from? People you worked with, people you know?
Both. A lot of people that I work with, or that I have worked with over the years, just kind of went into all of those characters. And um, Special Agent Janae Shannon, really, her character is more of a friend of mine. Her personality, and I just love that strong personality of hers. And so, but the other ones are basically just sort of a hodgepodge of what I consider to be a law enforcement type personality.
This one is really graphic in a lot of ways. How are you able to write that? I mean, how are you able to get inside a killer's head, a notorious, continuous killer, and write those scenes that just make it really vivid for the reader?
Well, it's kind of funny because when I wrote the first chapter of Underbelly, even though there's murder in that, it didn't bother me as much as when it was just flying out of my head. And so I didn't take pause necessarily until I wrote the chapter that was much more brutal, where the woman accidentally ends up down there. And I finished that chapter, and I just had to get up from the table and take a couple-hour break because it was upsetting. It's a graphic book, but I felt like I tried not to use like violence that would be over the top. It's his method, it's his style of killing people, and so I wanted to incorporate that, but without a lot of other violence too.
No, I think you did it in such a way that, we're taken back by the smells around it, the way that the characters react to it. You bring us into the character. And then, almost so much that we might miss a clue along the way. So that was so well done. I like that. I just love the way you were sneaky about a lot of different things. And it made it such an enjoyable read. Like literally maybe less than a day each. But
Wow.
I was determined because I wanted to keep up with her, because they're both about 300 pages.
Yeah.
But they were so good. You just kind of put it down. You're like, what happens next? Oh my God, do they get this guy? I was just like, what? But where did you develop your style of writing? Is this the first series you've written? Have you written others?
This is the first. And I I can't even answer that question because this is just how it flows from me. It is. I know that my sentences are very short and kind of choppy, and it's meant to entice people and to be a fast-paced read. But it is just what flows from me.
That's actually incredible because it's so well tuned. You would think you had written several books before to like perfect your craft, but you nailed it. These are
Wow.
really good.
Oh, thank you.
And when you finished Atone, is there going to be a book 3?
There is. An interesting thing happened. I've been writing the third book, as it's currently titled and will probably remain, is called Call Box. And that was inspired by the call boxes along the highways in California. And so I came up with this very dark idea for a serial killer, and how those call boxes might be used. And so I've spent over a year writing that, and it just wasn't flowing as well for me as the other two. And so a few months ago, I just became obsessed with a chapter that I had written probably 3 years ago. I just had this idea for a chapter, and I wrote that, and it became an obsession. Again, sometimes it just becomes a compulsion. The story is just continuing to write itself in my head, and I have to sit down at a keyboard. And so that book is called Housewife, and I wrote that book in under 5 weeks.
Under 5 months?
Under 5 weeks.
Under 5 weeks?
Yes. I was just up day and night. It just kept flowing. And so that book will actually be coming out probably, maybe, I'm hoping for September. That will be coming out sooner. And then hopefully I can get back to Call Box, because I do love Taryn's character, and I have many other ideas for her, places to go.
She still has a lot of stuff to do. She's not ready for retirement.
I think so too.
All right. And then you give your book clubs this wicked Karen Crawford mystery, hosting a mystery supper party. I loved all the pieces. Like, it's crazy. They have their own little books to keep notes.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about it. Like, the hints.
So this is...
is the mystery solved so the hosts can cheat?
So what I've set it up for is so that you and your friends are a team of detectives. And I know that there are other games out there where each person can solve it individually, but this one you have to, as a team, as a group, come up with one answer. So if you open that whodunit piece, that's the answer to the whole mystery. And then the mystery solved explains to you what the clues were along the way. And so that's how that works. Yes, it's supposed to be sealed with blood.
And then you have your instructions for the crime scene items, the recipe and shopping list, and you get to pick which friend you're going to murder.
Yes. And that person can actually participate. There's no role playing other than the fact that the team or the group of friends accepts that they are detectives. And so other than that, in the test runs and with the people I know, we've always used a person to put the shirt on, just because that's fun. But that person can still participate in everything because they're right in the middle of the crime scene. So they can be taking in information and then write their notes afterwards.
Nice. And I love the extras so you can play again. And I love that it came in one of these envelopes that you would actually see in a police department. The inter-department delivery. And I like my water gun.
Yes.
It was just so cute and like the perfect surprise. And just details preliminary victim and suspect identification for detective investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Approximate times of death, who they're related to. It was so well laid out. It just reminded me of law school. But it was just like this fun activity to do it. Like, who did it? The cheating wife, Vanessa, the angry son, the sad housekeeper, or the unfaithful business partner, or the neighborhood burglar. Yeah, and the bloodstained notes.
Yes. I wanted to make it a fun experience and to really have people go through the evidence, you know, and so when they would come in, when we were doing the test runs, I would tell them, this is your crime scene, detectives. And then they would ask things like, can we touch stuff? And I would just tell them, this is your crime scene. What would you do? You know, and so then people go through it all, and the discussions and the debates are fantastic as people argue their way through who each of them thinks the suspect is. And so it's fun. It's fun.
It definitely is, because there's different things people could interpret in different ways. So it's a lot like the way it's laid out in your book. You get to just go through it. And, you know, and you gave the pieces to us in the book. So if you read the book first, it's much easier to play the game. And I love my own tape.
Yes.
Put it across the doorway, leave some clues.
Yes.
And you really set up the scene. It was so creative.
Oh, thank you very much. I really had fun with it, and I have ideas for probably another at least 6 of them. And a couple of them will just be like burglary, heists, or different things like that. So not all of them are murder, even though I tend to lean toward that. Other people might like something a little more lighthearted.
Well, I just think it's the perfect activity for a group of, you know, book reader groups that do reviews and read together. And then they have this whole activity to do. And it just went so well with the stories. You really are a little mastermind.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
It was intriguing. I have not been challenged to figure out what was going on in such a long time. You know, like, there's different books and they lead you through and you're figuring it out with them. But just being challenged to think about the way things are unfolding, the way that people react to different things, and, you know, that the just a mindset of a serial killer, and, you know, his lack of empathy, his lack of fear was really gruesome. It was a good story.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed writing that character. And as I was writing, I could just hear his voice in my head, how he spoke to people, how he carried himself, you know, and his own confidence in what he does in killing people. You know, there were a couple of scenes in there. The one with Daniel Brady in the alleyway, where they're both there together at the same time. I had a lot of fun with that, and just with his confidence and really sort of teasing Daniel Brady. You know, so I enjoyed writing that character.
Yeah, I've been locking my doors and checking the car windows before I get in now, but thank you.
I had a friend tell me that she wasn't going to get in an elevator in Las Vegas for a very long time after she read that.
I know, like, I bet you that's there. Is that there? Is that how you know about it? Like, is there
I think that there are definitely places that they're constantly under construction and being remodeled, and you can sort of see the remnants of that as you stay in different hotels or you just travel to different places. And that long sort of alleyway, it does exist. It does exist there, and it's just kind of an interesting way that's behind the strip to get into a couple of the hotels there. And so, I don't know of anything bad ever happening there, but as I drive through places like that, they inspire me. I think about what could happen in there.
I do too, but now I think about it a lot more. Thanks. And having been to Las Vegas, it was so realistic. The culture, the way people acted. I've also worked for Foxwoods Casino behind the scenes. So, yeah, you could definitely see how security would react. And this was so well done and on key. Like, what the normal person would observe going into those places.
Oh, thank you. I getting that experience right was important to me because it needed to be authentic. Lots of people go there and they know what happens there. They know kind of how it works, and I definitely think it's a city of excess. People go there and do behave differently than they would anywhere else because it's all about going over the top when you're in Vegas. So I really wanted to capture that vibe.
Yeah, well, you definitely dispel the myth that murderers are going to get away with anything in Vegas. That's not going to stay there. And it was just so cute. All the details, um, the fitting in to the boys' club. I loved all of that. It was really good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so happy that you enjoyed both, and I'm so happy that I sent you both. I wrote that in the card when I sent it. I
You
think I
did,
said,
and
"Well,
I
I'm
was like,
sending
"What?
it
What does she
because."
mean?" I'm like, she's gonna leave me with a cliffhanger, okay? And then I'm like, "Wow!" It wasn't like a cliffhanger; it was like slam, and I was like, "No!" Like I was so happy you sent me the second one. And then
I
I
have.
think most readers, once they get through the first one, will be so happy that the second one's available and that a third one's coming on the way. Do you have any idea when it'll be printed?
I don't. I think that one could probably push into 2021, but hopefully that will just be earlier, like maybe in the spring. I think they're fun summer reads, these books. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. The summer read, the whole kit. This is just dynamic. And I love the little touches. It's wonderful. You should actually
Thank
go with like a gaming company to do that.
Yes, I think that would be really fun to check into that at some point because it's I think people are looking for experiences that they can share with friends and even with coworkers and just groups of people want to have an experience. I think more these days than in days of past, getting when everybody can get together and have fun. I think people will really be looking forward to that.
Right. And in most places, if you're tight with your family and you have that group, you know, even
Yeah.
with mask off and social distancing, it's still a great way to like start conversations. I think it helps people to be able to express themselves and do an exchange of ideas to reach a conclusion. Like I love that whole part of the game. It was so well thought out. It's like the books.
Oh,
Incredible.
thank you. Thank you. And I totally agree with what you're saying. It's nice for people to come together and debate, argue
Right.
their points and
And it's a
yeah,
game. So they realize like, oh, we're detectives. We can debate this. This is
right.
why I think it's this. Or but just that opportunity, you know. Oh, and second chance instructions before opening.
Yes.
You know, I mean, for those people in charge of a book club or the hostess or
Mhm.
host, there's so many details that it's like, all right, I got this. This is going to be incredible.
That's great, and there are definitely a couple of twists in it too. So, kind of like what you were saying earlier, if for people who read a lot of these, types of crime thrillers, they kind of they fall into that, and they know too, that there might be some trickery going on.
Yes, there is. There's lots. I just loved it. And so it wasn't like you read the book, you find out what happened. It was more that you challenge the reader along the way. Are you following me? Did you get that?
Yeah,
But like without going back and saying that to us, but you just kept us like really tuned in. I
I love
sincerely
that.
enjoyed it. So no pressure, but I
Oh,
really want the third one.
okay, okay. No pressure, no
No
pressure
pressure.
at
Lots
all.
of pressure.
I think you'll enjoy Housewife too, though. That's a completely standalone type of a book, and it's very dark.
It's dark.
It
Oh,
has to be. Yes.
yeah. After
If you
law enforcement for 20 years. Wow.
Yes.
What was your
Yeah.
favorite book growing up?
Oh, well, I would have to say that I liked the Nancy Drew mysteries, but my youngest recollection of my favorite book was the Boxcar Children. And it's funny that that popped into my mind the moment you asked that question. And part of why it did was somebody on social media recently asked that, what was your favorite childhood book? And that I was just so intrigued by these three kids that struck out into the world on their own. And and then they had a series. They continued the series with mysteries that they solved and all different kinds of things. But they were just young kids, and I just remember being so intrigued by that. It was just interesting to me. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much about how you crafted these tales and this wonderful game to go with it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I just feel it's a huge honor to be here and to talk to you, and I greatly appreciate your inviting me to be here with you. Thanks again.
Oh, no, it was absolutely my pleasure. And until next time, if you guys are looking for a fantastic, seriously creative crime novel, Karen Crawford will not let you down. We'll see you soon.